All right, today we're going to be a really quick one. We're looking at standard notation versus scientific notation. You should see this in your science classes, talking about really big numbers, really small numbers in terms of like moles or molecules, stuff like that. So we're going to look at how do you work this in terms of math. So our first one we've got here is a really big number. We've got it's like 125 million. The way to do this for standard notation is you always have a number that is, so you have one number, say 1.2 times 10 to the third. So this first number has to be greater than 0. It has to be less than 10. So it has to be greater than 0, less than 10. So you can have 9.99, but you can't have 10. Because if it's 10, you need to move it back over the next piece. So what we always do is try and figure out where our decimal place goes. So our decimal place is starting out right here. So moving it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spots over. So that means we have 1.25 times 10 to the 8th. So if you move it over 8 spots, then you have to have it to the 8th power. And that decimal place goes between the 1 and the 2. The next one, we're moving the opposite direction. So instead of moving it to the left, moving to the right. So we're going to need 2 spots over. So right there. And notice how our decimal place now makes it between 0 and 10. So we get 2.35 times 10. And if we move it to the right, it ends up being a negative number. So 10 to the negative second. Remember we talked about negative exponents yesterday. So that makes that actually a smaller number. So multiplying by a number like 10 to the 8th, or a power that is greater than 1, actually greater than 0, makes it big. If it's less than 0, makes it small. So I'm going to have you try and finish off the next two on your own, so go ahead and pause that for a second. All right, so you should be back looking at the next one. So our decimal place is going to go between this first 4 and 7. So it means we're moving it over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 spots. So 4.7, 7, 5, 6, 8, 9 times 10 to the, let's say 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 spots, 10 to the 12th. Next one, moving it over a bunch of spots. So again, to be between 2 and the 3, so 2.358, I know is my starting number. And then just how many spots over? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots times 10 to the 7th. So now we're going the opposite direction. So we're moving it over 8 spots to the right. So I always do it to just counting it. So you have 2. So moving it, that's 1 spot, and then filling the rest with 0. So 1 spot, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I should have 7 zeros there because I moved it over 1 spot to get behind the 3, and then 7 more after that. So 230 million. And now we're going the opposite direction. Now, one thing to realize is this number stays negative. So just because there's a negative here, and the negative 4, and a negative in front of the 3, doesn't mean it goes positive. The number stays negative. So moving it over 4 spots, so 1 spot, 2 spots, 3 spots, 4 spots, so I know I'm going to have my decimal point, and then fill in 3 zeros, so 1, 2, 3, and then 3. So 0.000332. All right, so it's kind of just transferring between the two. You should have that down from science class. So looking at now, how do we multiply those? So to multiply and divide these, we're going to use our division rules and our multiplication rules that we used in our other ones. So what I always look at first of all is it's kind of like you're just multiplying the numbers together, multiplying the powers together. So multiplying the numbers together, so 5.7 times 4.6 is 26.22 times 10. And our 5 and our 7, we add those exponents because you're multiplying, so it's to the 12. And here's the tricky part. Remember I said it has to be between 0 and 10? Because it's between 0 and 10, we can't leave it as 26.2. We've got to move this over 1 more spot to make it 2.622. 2.622. And because we move it to the left, that means we have to add one more up here. So 10 to the 13th. So moving it over one spot, it changes it up one more. All right. So our next one, 3.5 times 10 to the negative third, divided by 1.75 times 10 to the negative fifth. So again, we're going to do our division. So we're going to divide 3.5 divided by 1.75, and that gives us 2. All right. And now our 10 to the negative third and 10 to the negative fifth, we are going to subtract those. So doing negative 3 minus negative 5. So you get kind of like a chop or a ding-dong there. So you get a positive 2, so times 10 to the second. And then our last one, we're going to distribute that 3 into both, just like we've been doing in the past. So we get 1.23 to the third power, which ends up being 1.86. I'm going to round it and leave it right there, 1.86. And then times 10 to the 12th. So the key thing here is that you treat the numbers separate from the exponents. So your 3.5, your 1.7, your 1.23. So all get treated separately from it. All right. Hope this has helped a little bit. We will see you tomorrow in class.